What's up, YouTube? This is Aisha the Goddess making another video. First things first, I'm in the bed and I'm in my pajamas because I'm resting today, but I have this opportunity to make the video, so why not? Also, my face is extremely very much in the camera, and for those who don't like looking at my face, I'm sorry, but my microphone is low for some reason, and my voice goes as high as it's gonna go. So I brought the webcam closer to my face as opposed to talking louder, so I could talk in my normal voice. So what inspired this video? Um, I'm gonna tell you something about myself. I'm the type of person you can tell me something, but until I see it for myself and I learn it for myself, I just don't get it. And which is made things more challenging for me to learn because I had to wait on the my own wisdom and my own experience to give me wisdom. A few things. There is a teaching that we as a society teach our girls. I don't know why not our guys, but both teenagers, young people, everybody really. Especially in religious traditions, they teach not to go around having sex with multiple people. And I am very free spirited. Not that I've had sex with a whole crap load of people, but I've always had the attitude I do what I want to do. And with age came the knowledge of why you shouldn't have sex with a lot of people. It's because um, sex is more than a physical act, it's an energetic act, it's an emotional act, it's an exchange of more than just bodily fluid, it's an exchange of energies and impressions. And by you being that close in the midst of doing something that is creating a lot of the friction, is creating a lot of energy, what you end up doing is you end up trading energies in a sense of you're taking that person into yourself and you're giving that person pieces of yourself. And not to say that you can't get it back, but just to say that if the vibrational frequencies do not match, it will create a discord within yourself because now you have the imprint of something that does not match your natural imprint. And once that happens, it's more harder to remove. The logic behind the rule is very, it makes a lot of sense. But, you know, if you don't understand why, a lot of times when you tell people not to do something and you don't thoroughly explain why they shouldn't do it, um, they tend to do it anyway. Another thing is, and this one I know that people are going to say, well, duh. But for me, it wasn't like, for me, I pick my relationships based off who my soul is attracted to. If my soul is drawn to that person, everything else is not a factor in my decision to be in a relationship. Economic status, physical appearance, even state of consciousness has never been a deciding factor on whether or not I would engage with a particular person, even gender, for those of you who really know me. It's more of that chemical attraction, instinct, drawing, magnetic type of thing is what I all the way ran with. And the frequency of my attraction was just one particular frequency. A lot of times it wasn't enough as a whole to sustain the relationship because the reality of life and economic status and level of consciousness, and not necessarily physical appearance, but those two things ignored by me begin to come into play as the relationship began to cultivate and grow. And I had to learn the hard way. Yes, you have to consider those two things of equal importance along with your soul's um, stance on the situation. At the end of the day, I don't regret any relationships I've been involved in because they all taught me to grow and how to view things, and they taught me those lessons that I need to know. Getting to the point of the video. So I know this is funny, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So you know how Ciara had a baby with Future, and then she got married to Russell Wilson, and now that is Russell Wilson's stepchild. Well, this created uh hold on one second. You're leaving? It's really what? It's hot. Up here? Bless you. It's kind of stuffy downstairs. Sanaya told me it was cold up here and that it was warm downstairs. That was an hour ago. Because that's why I cut off my fan. No, it was hot up there. You need your other phone up there. They don't come up with these in the coffee. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm making a video. Look, you just... Let me know when you get back. No, don't turn the air on. Don't turn the air on. I'll turn it on when it's needed to be on. I'm cold. Okay. I'm under 2 blankets right now. You off today? Yeah. Just let me know when you get back. Oh, I saw her obituary. I'm glad I ain't go to the funeral. I'm glad I ain't go. I'm glad. I wouldn't been able to. It's all so fuzzy. Like, I couldn't believe it was her in front of the obituary. It's like, oh my God, I feel like it was too. I felt like it was too close. Like, I felt like I could have been. You doing a video right now? Oh shit! I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, y'all. I quit. I'm gone. I'll talk to you when you get back. My kids talk a lot. They like me. Um. Okay, so what I was saying is, you know, it was a lot of strong debate about whether Ciara was right or wrong and how she handled the situation. You could tell that her and Future wasn't seeing eye to eye on certain things, and then she gets the new boyfriend. And the new boyfriend is embracing her. He's saying, hey, I love you. I want to marry you. And he's embracing her son. Hey, I love you. I want to marry you. I want to help you raise your child. I love your child like he's mine. And people think he's wrong. People think he's right. It was very much divided. I was actually going through something similar at the same time. So it was really, really tripped out to watch for me. Um, in my perception of the situations, I think this is me learning a lesson of, be careful who you have children with. Because if you don't have the same vibrational match, situations like this end up happening. For me, my ego isn't as big as to view my children as possessions of myself. They are souls that came here through me, and I was chosen. This is how I look at it. I was chosen to be the vessel that they came here. I was chosen to be their protector, their nurturer, their guider, their the person that raises them up to adulthood and teaches them and guides them. I found that when my daughter reached to be a teenager, But she reached the age that she was a teenager, and she had her own ideas and her own views, and they were so strong how she felt that me telling her what to do wasn't what worked for us in our particular situation, because she's stubborn, just as stubborn as I am, and she has the experience just like I do. By that being my child, I use myself as a guideline of how I would treat her. What did I need at that age? What would have helped me at that age? So I decided to become more so her counselor, like the guidance counselor in school that sits there and comes when you need them. That's what I did. I stepped back from more so telling you what to do to explaining why you should do things, counseling you through your own decisions, but letting her make her own decisions. Now, is she living what I think she should be doing at 19? No. Do I judge her for that? No. I help her figure it out. I am pushing her. Yes, certain things you need to do. You need to go to school, because the way this world is set up, you have to be able to financially sustain yourself. And this is the way you do that. That's just something you can't get around unless the opportunity arises for you to do something else, which at this point has not happened. Um, I think what I learned was, because, like I said, I don't view children as possessions, but a lot of people do. A lot of people have the attachment to their children, and they're in the state of the ego of mine, 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 mine. My kids. We say, do use those subjective possessive pronouns. That's what we learned in school. Possessive pronouns. My kids, my this, my that. For me, it's just a matter of I have to use the language as it's presented. So I say my children because there's not a word to say they were physically given to be put under my care and I'm raising them, but they are their own souls. There's no language. There's no, you know, the older I get, the more I realize how much the human language has its limitations, because you have to say the word that means the closest to it. There is no language for how I think unless I was to use the long version of what I just said, which, I'm not going to do. So I say my kids, but I don't really mean mine as they belong to me. They don't belong to anyone. They belong to God. They are a part of creation. My attachment to them is I have to maintain some sort of attachment to them just based on the way of the world is not the way it used to be. At 13, at 14, my son is still considered in my care. I can't put him out because I don't like what he's doing. He is charged to me. That was my charge as a mother. That was my job that I chose to do as a parent. Um, that charge is a biological one, but yet it could be a moralistic one. And I think for Russell, it's more of a moralistic one out of love for that boy and for his mother. And Future probably, I'm assuming, I don't know because I don't know these people, I'm speculating, can't see that because of the possession of that's my son. The men and the women that I have found that say that's disrespectful, I say it was very, I'm looking for the word to describe, like it was a very testy situation because it was done in the public eye and it was done under the scrutiny of strangers, and the intention when you don't know somebody's intention, you tend to more speculate and judge. By me being a very vocal person, my intentions, but even when I state my intentions, it's very much sometimes lost in translation because people can only understand things based on their own perception. So there are people who judge me. There are people who might say, you have multiple children by multiple fathers, which no, I didn't plan. Um, I was young when I got with my daughter's father. This is what I want to explain. And I don't know if I've ever done this because I do put out pieces of my life on these videos, but I, I don't put them out to be judged, but I know people are going to do that. I'm not afraid for people to judge me because I have an understanding of myself that, as long as I'm happy with it, what difference does it make what somebody else thinks about it? It doesn't change the happiness that I have with my own self. But I do listen to people's viewpoints because you can learn from them. But at the time, it's like you make the decisions in that moment that you think are a good decision. You don't know. Like if I would have known the things would turn out the way they were, of course I wouldn't do it. But how would I know? I had to go through the experience to gain the knowledge and the wisdom to say, okay, not only that, but I use my own knowledge and wisdom to teach my children so that they don't make the same mistakes that I made, and my mother did not do that to me. She did not take her own knowledge and wisdom of things that she went through and sit down and talk to me and, paint that picture of the lessons she learned so that I wouldn't make them. That's not how my mother was. What's wrong? Why don't you take a Claritin, child? I asked for this like what? Because that's just ridiculous. I know, my daughter doesn't like taking pills. Like Claritin's a little baby, like girl. Her nose is running, her eyes are red, her allergies are kicking her behind. Anyway, I didn't have that. So a lot of things, I didn't have an older woman. I didn't have a counselor or a teacher, which is probably the reason why I talk so much because I never had anyone to guide me or show me. So everything that I learned through my own trial and error. The first relationship I was drawn to, it was the compassion that this man had for my situation. And at the time, I didn't have a very good home life. And I was attracted to the compassion because it was an aspect of his personality that was very similar to mine. And I was in a situation where it wasn't mentally and spiritually in a good place. And he offered me shelter and he offered me help. And I took it. And because I thought that because he had compassion for that moment in that situation, that he was a compassionate person. See, I was just naive. I am learning that just because an aspect of a personality has that attribute does not mean that that person has those attributes all the time. I am the type of person, I'm very grounded in. Sorry, you guys, it's 20 minutes long. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Y'all know how I talk. I am the type of person where I'm the same way Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I try consciously to practice compassion to every situation, which is hard to do because if the situation is negative, you want to judge it. It's hard to refrain from judging, but I've always had the ability to do that. And I thought that if someone had compassion, that they had the ability to be compassionate in every situation. I did not know at 17 that that was only an aspect of this person, and they only had it in that moment for that purpose, for that moment for me. I will say he loved me and he did the best job he could at showing it, which was not a good enough job for me to sustain a relationship because I needed so much more. and he was young and working on himself. Okay, so a baby came out of it. Baby was made in love, but he wasn't able, due to his own limitations in life, to be there for that child. And if I would have known the lesson of find somebody who is like you before you have a baby, which I don't regret, but I'm judged by outsiders and by society who says that you shouldn't have multiple baby daddies, that you should be a wife and a mother and before you're a mother. It's the way the society has it set up that I did not and could not conform to, because never understood the limitation of the rule, because nobody explained to me why. If someone matches you in the terms of the chemistry, the economic status, and the level of consciousness, and you decide to partner in life, then the stability of raising a child is easier because it's a more stable foundation. That was not thoroughly explained to me, and I went off of the chemistry and the aspects without being able to see the whole picture. Now, like I said, I regret my child. Of course, it was hard raising a bringing a child into the world, raising it by myself, raising her by myself. But what it did was, see, it doesn't necessarily mean that it ends up to be a bad thing for every single person. People judge single parent households as far as, oh, the kids are more likely to be this, be that. They're more likely to abuse drugs. They're more likely to do this, and they're more likely to do that when they don't have a father, based off these statistics. And yes, I do understand those statistics, but there are exceptions to every rule. What I did was I started having to be more conscious about who I was and what I was doing, because this job was very important to me, to be a mother. Um, my son father, it was a matter of compassion too. But my partners have all had similar personalities as far as the aspects that I was attracted to. But the things that were needed to sustain the relationship that weren't there were all different. Um, the second time I was so, yes, I love this man. I want to be with this man, but um, I don't know. And I move so fast in my own, I love you. Let's do this. I'm I'm the glasses half full type of person. I don't really pay attention to, you know, I and I still am like that. I don't look before I leap. I just leap, especially when it comes to love. And that's not something that should be held against me. Like I'm a lesser than person. Like I'm worthy. I deserve to be judged by strangers and people who don't know me, because I believe in the power of love, and I wholeheartedly throw my confidence behind love. Which in this day and age, what I grew to realize doing these trial and errors is, people, it's not that they don't love, they just don't know how. They were not taught how by the people that whose job it was to teach them things like that, their parents, because 9 times out of 10 they weren't taught by their parents. I realized people are very damaged, but I didn't know that, because I've always been honest about what was damaged in myself. It kind of helped me heal. So I didn't know that people were suppressing things. I mean, I have very similar pain bodies to the people that I was attracted to and still am attracted to. Okay, so, then I got married because I felt like biblically and religiously and morally that what you was supposed to do, which I really didn't want to do, and that didn't work. Then my daughter's father, compassion too. I was attracted to compassionate people. And these people that I have engaged in partnerships with are very good hearted people at their core, but they've sustained so much damage that they can't even see it a lot of times in themselves. And I am able to see the brightness of their soul so clearly. I looked at things through different eyes than other people had. I just want to explain it because people think things are just black and white, and they're not always black and white. My daughter's father, I'm going to give you an example of compassion of him. When I first learned how to drive, I had a phobia and I didn't know how to drive. And then when I finally started driving, I couldn't park. I would call him and he would come park my car, no matter what he was, no matter who he was with. He was with his girlfriend. You know, we were friends. We grew up together. But he would come park my car for me. He would come shovel the snow out the way of, how Chicago is. If there was no way for me to park, and I would sit there in the street with my hazards on, not blocking traffic, but waiting on him. And he would come and park my car for me. And it was like certain things that he did. I was like, wow. But I saw things in these people that they didn't see in themselves. And I couldn't understand why they couldn't see it either. And it's that they allowed the traumas of what happened to them to build their egos to guard their souls. And my ego just never developed. I don't know why. It just never developed as strongly as others' egos as far as me needing to protect myself from hurt and pain because I've always felt like it was part of life. Your hurt and your pain and your suffering is what grows you. So why would I want to protect myself from that? And I guess I'm intertwining all of this because, like I said, there are people who judge the situation with them and look at it like that baby is his possession, and she shouldn't be sharing it with anybody else. Which I was just like, if there are three positive people raising a child, how is that detrimental to the child? But I realized that a lot of times women think that way more than men because men have those warrior spirits, those possessions, and by me being in a relationship with a man now, he was able to explain things from a man's point of view that I did not understand because I did not have the capacity of that natural instinct inside of me. He would say things like men are conquerors, so possessions are important to them because they have that, you know, ride out and possess the land and pillage and plot and plunder and, war, that they have a more disposition for war. And I couldn't understand how, like for example, my boyfriend, when I first met him, he told me that everybody has an ulterior motive for everything that they say, which shocked me because I was like, they do? Like, because I've never had an ulterior motive of manipulation for the things that I said. I have intention. My intention now is sometimes it's for my own protection and sometimes it's for my own desire, but my intention has never been seeking something to take something away from somebody else. Um, I fully believe there's space for everyone to coexist. So it's like, why would you be mad that there's somebody else in a picture? Why can't you just coexist in that situation? Why would you feel it necessary to say this is my baby mama and this is my son and I don't want somebody else around them? And I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I'm just using that situation as an example about how people do things and hence the reason why, yeah, you shouldn't have a whole lot of baby mamas and baby daddies because then you have to deal with these different people's personalities. Now, in my case, have by me having multiple children's other parents, because I can't even say baby daddies because, I have two children by with their other parent as a woman. But it's the same situation. It's still parents, it's parents, it's parents. Um, my daughter's father moved when she was 9 months old, so we didn't co-parent, and he didn't help financially. And financially, he's not in a position still where he can help. But that's his own. That was his own life, That was the circumstances that, like, I can't judge that. That's the circumstances that he's dealt with, and I know his struggles more than anybody else. Yes, do I feel like he should have pushed himself further because now he had the responsibility of not just his life but another life. Yes, I do. That's my opinion about the situation. But he didn't. And I couldn't make him. So he did his thing, I did my thing. Um my son's father psychologically and mentally did not have the capacity of contributing to a positive aspect of growth for my son, which do I think that that has the potential to hurt my child? Yes, but I'm so conscious in what I do and why I do it and how I do it. I have tried to find substitutes and, you know, get it, have my son understand I'm a woman and I can only raise you to the best of my own psychological abilities, but it's going to be from a woman's perception to an extent. So I let my son know that when he needs advice, I call my brother, I call my guy friends, and I round up their perspectives and their perceptions. And then I present a conclusion to him based off of what other men think and what I think. But I've let him know that it's not just me alone thinking what I think is best for you because my perception is limited because I've never been a 14-year-old boy. Not to say that as a woman that I'm incapable of raising a man, but to say that I had to utilize more tools than just what was in my own barrel of assault rifles, my own weaponry and my own mental brigade of weaponry because it was going to be limited because there's certain things that I cannot internalize and process internally because I can't relate to them. So I don't judge that situation. And eventually, I did ask him consciously and voluntarily to stay away from him because his perception was so damaged and dysfunctional. I explained to him that's what you're going to imprint on my son. And if you love this child, you should want better for him than to leave that. How do you feel knowing that was imprinted on you? And I don't think it was, he loved my son, and I know that, but he knew I was right and he left. And he told me years later he regretted it. But it wasn't that I would have even, like, at that moment I felt that was the best thing. And I'm not so locked into my beliefs that they can't change if I was able to sit down and really gain insight into what was best in that moment. But that situation never presented itself due to the person that I was dealing with, due to the things that he was doing, even to me years later, even though I hadn't seen him. Trust me, I went through a lot. He had falsified documentation for my son's medical card through, the Department of the Assistance where they give you the health, the health care for kids. He had was getting food stamps in another city because of course he had went, and the boy is so smart. It's like if only he would have used his powers for good while he was living. He went to the office, he presented them with a birth certificate, a social security card, and a child, which was not my son, that I guess was calling him dad, and got food stamps for my son. And which was fraud. And then he filed, he took it a step further and filed income tax like he had been having possession of my son the entire time. I had to go through a lot of red tape and show a lot of proof that my son had been with me. And then he ended up getting killed, and I didn't know until years later. um my daughter's father, like I told my daughter, the theories that I have about spiritual existence ahead of time is you choose some of your circumstances. You don't choose them all because some of them are based on cause and effect and evolution. Some of them are based on the karma of past lives. Some of them are based on what you programmed into this computer simulation before you came down here, of what the challenges you wanted so you can learn certain lessons. You pick your parents. You pick certain things that, are going to happen to you. So, like I told my daughter, I do believe that you had a contract with your father that he wouldn't raise you because he died when she was a month old. And like I said, he was the one that shoveled the snow that I was attracted to. And the love that I made my children from, the love. Yes, it was sex, but it was love. The love that I made my children out of, it was a space that was really pure. That's why I don't regret having that energy around me and having multiple baby parents, because it was a pure space. It wasn't made on just sex or just, releasing of energy. So I've had to deal with the effects of those causes. Causes being, hey, I laid down with these men and made these babies from love, and you know, now these men were not there to help me raise these babies. I guess because I can look at the purity and I can see the purity of a situation, and I understand that people can't and they're gonna judge, and that's fine. That's why I've never hidden it. That's why I've never been the type of person to be like, um, I, how can you be spiritual and you got all these kids and these daddies and stuff? Well, if you don't understand, then you're just not in a place where you can understand. I'm not gonna hide it for fear of being judged. I mean, what's the point of being spiritual if you're gonna walk around judging everybody? Like, that's defeating the whole purpose. You can't see because you're clouded by your judgment. But anyway, so um then I had the partnership with a woman, and I'm not saying this is a good reason, but I looked at her like she has to suffer the effects of all my other reasons. And the only thing she was asking me was, well, let's do one together. And I am raising these and I am caring for these. And it was a bargain that I agreed to because she was doing a job that the people the people in the people who were supposed to be doing wasn't doing. So if she was asking me to give her to share with her something that I share with them that they didn't even cherish and appreciate, why wouldn't I do it with her? And so I did. And right now we're having a little bit of disagreement and misunderstanding of things that are going on, and it's because the relationship didn't work, and I know this person enough to know that she's having a hard time dealing with the fact that it didn't work. And so I'm giving her the space that she needs. So no, I mean, even now the co-parenting talks have fallen apart, but it's temporary. And if it's permanent, and if she moves on with her life, then what can I do? That was the decision that I made at that moment that I thought was the right decision. There are people who have laughed at me. There are people who have called me stupid. There are people, and then turn around and said that they worship God. But even like I learned being with the man that I'm with, is it made me realize that if you are involved in a religion that basically teaches judgment, teaches that the God is in the religion is a God of judgment, and you're made in his image, and it's quite natural, it's quite easy to judge, because when you judge somebody else, it's easy to look at somebody else's situation and see particularly where they went wrong. And that is the intuitive instincts that we have that are very spiritual, but we don't understand them in the capacity that we have them. So they turn into judge because you it's easier to have insight on somebody else's life than it is to have insight on your own. That's just natural. And I don't know why that's there, but we take that and it turns into judging and saying that somebody is wrong when you don't fully understand the reasons and the intentions of that person. That's why, I can't judge a situation as to say somebody's wrong, but I do come from a background where I understand why people do that. And based on the rules that they have received on how you should live, how you should behave, what you should do, if we came from the African proverb of it takes a village to raise a child to the Western ass society of you should be married to only one person, have 2.5 kids, and live the American dream, it's very much lost in the translation between the two and the distortion between the two. I mean, I just look at the situation like people, if people don't understand themselves, how are they going to relate to other people? Like, if Future can only see based on what he's been through, and then he looks at the situation like, well, dude trying to come in and replace me or replace me as a father, instead of asking, you know, sitting down with him and saying, hey man, what are your intentions with this woman who I have loved and this child who I love? You know, she likes you and she wants you around, but I want to know because I'm very protective of the people that I love, and I love her and I love him, and your, I don't want it to turn into a possibly negative situation. So I'm laying my cards on the table. I'm telling you the type of person I am. I'm very protective of those that I love, and that turns into potentially a war situation. But what you guys are failing to understand is even before war, there were talks. Even in war, there are strategies, and you meet with the enemy and you talk and you engage before you go to war. And if he would have learned Russell's intentions, and Russell would have said, hey man, I'm not trying to step on your toes. I'm not trying to be his father. I'm just trying to love them like you love them. I love these people too. They would have realized they have more in common than they even give themselves credit for. And it would have been something where they were working together instead of, it being one person on one side and the other person on the other side. But people's egos and their pride prohibit them from sitting down with someone that they can view potentially as an enemy. And wherever the enemy aspect came from is how they're feeling emotionally about in a situation. So I see all of the things that break down harmony, and I can point them out very simply. And I think it's just part of where a lot of people have evolved to. And to undo that, it takes conscious effort. So, kind of the moral of the story, the long, drawn out illustration of this story is there is a reason behind everything as far as why you should do something, why you shouldn't be so quick to judge, why you shouldn't be so quick to engage in sexual behavior. Why? There's always a why. And if you are curious enough, you can find out the reasons why behind things. You can engage yourself in the knowledge of the why. And I guess if you make that effort to engage in the knowledge, it will lead to change. Because trust me, I'm not about to lay down with every single person that my soul is magnetically drawn to anymore. I've learned that lesson. Um, guess this video is over. Sorry it's so long, you guys, but that's what I do. I talk and I share. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to me on YouTube and follow my page on Facebook, Urban Awakenings, and look forward to more videos and engaging you guys. All right, take care of yourselves and love and light. And I'm out.